my girl.
What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of The Variety Views. I'm your host, The Variety Vendor, and going to change things up. And I promise I'll continue my 31 views. I'll keep on, reviewing horror movies till the end of October. But I just wanted to change things up and review a movie that I saw today, Girls Trip, and This movie was released in July 21st worldwide, 2017, and it was a box office success. And not just that, but everybody absolutely loved it. And it's not hard to see why people really enjoyed this movie. But at the same time, while I'm watching this, and I kind of expected it to be this girl comedy, this kind of chick flick type of movie, but at the same time, it still has more so than, okay, let's hit the notes that, the girls that like. No, I expected it to be more so, kind of like what Bridesmaids was. And I've heard a lot of comparisons that this is like Bridesmaids, but with an all-black cast. Although it's hard to say because, Maya Rudolph, she passes for black. Now, this movie was directed by Malcolm D. Lee, one of my favorite directors, because he actually directed one of my favorite comedies of all time, Undercover Brother, and he also directed one of my least favorite comedy movies of all time, Scary Movie 5. In this movie, you do see a lot of tropes from Malcolm D, but at the same time, there are some, I feel like there's a little bit of clash going on, because I do feel that if it was all up to Malcolm, then this would have been a little bit shorter and a little bit more concise, because it felt like they had a good story, they had a good message, but at the same time it was dragged and dragged and dragged for 2 hours. A comedy movie should never be 2 hours. Never. Because the thing is about comedy is you run the risk of losing people's interest, because when people are about to watch a comedy movie, they're there to have a quick escape, a quick and fast laugh, because when you're laughing, it takes a toll on you. When there's a lot of humor, because when there's a lot of humor, then it's oversaturated. When there are a lot of laughs, you kind of tire the audience. But at the same time, when the laughs are few and far between, there's a lull moment to the point where you kind of lose the audience interest. So it's a very risky thing, and this is why I absolutely respect whoever does comedy, who's whether it's stand-up comedy or a sitcom or a movie. There's a reason why sitcoms are just 20 minutes long or a half an hour, including commercials, is because you do run the gambit of losing people's interest. So with this going for the full 2 hours, it's kind of like, you're giving me too much. You're giving me too much to the point where I'm gonna have half of the meal and the other half is just gonna be thrown away, and that's absolutely wrong. That's just inhumane to do so. So yeah. So the movie pretty much centers around the Fosse Posse, the group, and I did love the main cast. Okay, I loved Regina Hall, loved Queen Latifah, always loved Queen Latifah. She's one of my favorite actresses of all time. Jada Pinkett Smith, and Tiffany Haddish. I don't know anything about her, although I've seen her a little bit here and there, but not so much to the point where I was able to form an opinion. She was a riot in this movie. She was a show stealer here. She was a little bit, overly used, kind of like with Melissa McCarthy and Bridesmaids. but at the same time, it wasn't to the point where you kind of veered off of your direction. The movie had a destination, and by hook or by crook, they were going to go there, and that's something that I got to commend them for. There's a lot of cameos here. There's a lot of great, characters and musicians and actors and famous people just showing up, just doing a little cameo. It was cool to see. But at the same time, I feel like all of that, there was a lot of padding for the movie, to the point where it's like, oh, that was a funny skit. And then afterwards, it's like, we're back to the story. And, it's a good story, but at the same time, it's not to the point where I'm like, yes, this is a great story, and this is exactly the message that you need to give to everybody. Because there's like this subplot about, journalism, and if you're like, oh, if you follow celebrities and if you're, part of the paparazzi, then, you're absolute garbage. No, I don't think so. I think that there is a need, there is a place for the paparazzi in Hollywood. So I think, if anything, paparazzi actually, most of them are there to actually elevate some of the stars. Some of the stars are not they would be nothing without the paparazzi. So, Kim Kardashian, I don't think she would be as big of a star as she is. She would just be like a runway model. She wouldn't be as big of a star without the paparazzi, without the whole scandalous stuff, the scandalous nature of the business. So they really hammed it in and just kept on throwing it in your face and be like, this is wrong. And I also hated, I didn't like the fact that there was a liar revealed moment in the movie, but commendable, big ups for them for not actually stretching it out, because usually it's part of it's like the meat and potatoes of the third act. They did not, go too much into it, and I gotta commend them for that. Now, everybody else, so this movie, pretty much centers around the posse, getting back together. They haven't been together for 5 years. They're finally back together. I believe this is the first time in a long time Jada Pinkett-Smith and Queen Latifah have been together since one of my favorite heist movies. This is just such an underrated movie. It's called Set It Off from '95. Amazing movie. If you've got the time, check it out. It's so awesome. And a lot of things, it did mirror a lot of from Set It Off, where you had a great, cast, a great black, female cast that, had that friendship going on. And here, it was there. It felt real. And, it was great seeing them together, them interacting with each other. It was cool. But when you had, like, this storyline kind of bogging it down, I just think that if you put that aside and made it just about them, kind of getting to know each other and kind of getting, back into the groove with things, and just been about that, and cut out the whole, the whole storyline of, Regina Hall's character, Ryan Pierce, dealing with the fact that her husband, Mike Coulter, who I'll always call Luke Cage, because that's who he is. That's Luke Cage. You cannot see him for anything else. It's like him out there, it's like he's in a suit. I'm like, what the fuck? What's Luke Cage doing here? It's like, and I forget that the guy's an actual actor. He's allowed to do other stuff. I'm like, Luke Cage, fuck. So seeing him here, and there's this whole storyline of, him cheating on his wife, and there's this scandal that they're trying to keep under wraps, and, Queen Latifah's character plays, this type of journalist that, this dirt journalist, that the person that, dishes out the dirt on her website, about celebrities. But she's, keeping it under wraps. So it's commendable. I like that. I like the fact that they didn't go to the route where it's like, okay, this character is going to, she's going to pretty much, sell out on her best friend, just for the sake of, for our payday, even though that they did show the fact that she's got bills to pay, but it's so weird. It's so weird that she's got bills to pay, and then you look at her apartment, and it's like it's this magnificent apartment that I don't think anybody with her kind of problems would afford. It's just so weird to see, and so you know where this is going, what's going to happen at the end, but I like the fact that they didn't veer off way too much, and when they did, it was for the sake of good comedy, because after all, this is a comedy movie. This is a comedy first and drama second, and really amazing acting by Regina Hall. Regina is such an underrated actress. I loved her ever since Scary Movie. The first four Scary movies. She was even in 5, and thank God, because she didn't need that. She's always like the best part of those, and she's such a great actress, an all-around actress. Like I would love to see her in more things. I wish she was more famous, and she was in more movies that I can watch and just enjoy and savor every second of. So yeah, this movie was very enjoyable. A lot of great parts in this movie that I really will remember for many years when looking back into this movie. So my final grade would be I would give this three and a half. I'd give this 3.5 out of 5. It does deserve that. I wouldn't go the full 4 because, like I said, it was stretched out. Kind of got a little boring, in some parts, but at the same time, you do need to keep the audience. You need to give the audience a time to breathe. But at the same time, in those moments, it wasn't interesting enough to keep my interest. That sounded redundant, but at the same time, I think that's like the perfect way to describe it in my opinion. So, yeah, I love parts of it, but not the entire movie. That's the reason why I give it 3.5 stars. And I'm really looking forward to everybody in this cast. What they're going to do next. Even the director. I really enjoy Malcolm D's direction. He's a great director, and I do think that his style of comedy can really help invigorate the comedy genre, because the comedy movies are so few and far between. It's more reliant on big stars rather than big storylines, and I think that's really saddening, because comedy is one of my favorite genres in cinema. So yeah, with that being said, rate, comment, favorite, happily subscribe, and check out my next video where I'll be talking about something else.